are live with episode 103. This is 103, right? Let me look. Yep, it's episode 103 of Super Informed GamesCast, SDGC. Sorry, guys. The alcohol is already starting to take hold. Anyway, man, shut up. Don't shake your head at me. You're drinking what? Bullet bourbon? What would you say that was?
That's right.
How much did you pay for that?
$13?
You can't even breathe. You're drinking it. You're like, $13.
Hold up, Zach. Bullet is $13 there?
Yep.
I mean,
that's a little guy.
Okay, I was gonna say mine was like $40 Canadian.
Well, you know, we're off to a very focused start.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so welcome everybody. As you guys can see, we have two very cool guests on tonight. Well, one of them you can see right down here in the bottom of the screen, and the other one, he is such a good-looking man that it literally destroyed his camera the moment he exposed his face to it. But we'll introduce Steve Blomkamp first. Steve, you're a good friend of ours. You're an awesome dude, and it's been a while since you've been on the podcast, so we are really happy you're back on, man. This is great.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Are you though? Because you're not wearing your Socky shirt, and I'm a little. I don't know. I don't want to say offended.
It's a protest.
It's a protest.
It's a protest. Yeah, after the last podcast I was on, where you all demonstrated that you have no idea how top 100 lists work. Yeah, I'm just refusing to support you guys now. I'm just here to be angry.
We know exactly how they work. Final Fantasy VI goes at number 43, and then everything else goes around that.
Bullshit. That is such a
exactly.
It still hurts so bad.
I hate all of you.
3 goes spots 42 to 1, and we all know that. So.
Oh my god, that's so bad. And we also have our good friend Wout, who is at the Hashtagonist on Twitter. He does all kinds of cool video game journalism stuff, and of course you guys can't see him, but he's up in the top corner with his amazing new avatar. Wout, you are a good friend of ours, and we always love having you on. I think this is what, like, your third time on? Fourth, maybe?
He might still be muted.
Wout, are you still muted?
Yes.
There he is. Okay. I said very specifically before we started, when my mouth starts moving, well, you unmute me.
I thought I did, but I probably did to reverse. I was breaking the rules.
Literally failed us all of us.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
So this is what like your third time on?
Third time, I think so. Yeah.
Third time, yes.
Although the top 100 list, I tried to forget that one. So let's get them all again on that.
I waffle between whether or not that is our best episode or our worst episode, and I feel like it's a little bit of both.
Maybe a little bit of both.
I feel like we're still going to be talking about this a year from now. We're going to be talking about that episode. And as for regular panel members, we got Zach. What's going on, my dude?
Hey, not a whole lot. Hope everybody's doing good today.
Drinking that cheap ass Bullet. And meanwhile, I am sipping on the finest Dragon's Milk bourbon stout because I'm a man of taste and class. And Finn is here as well, down in the corner. Dude, it is always good to have you on. You missed last week, right?
I've missed the last 3.
Yeah, sorry. You're just not that important to me, so I can't remember when you've been on or not.
That's fine.
Partying for the last couple weeks.
That's why I haven't been on for 3 weeks.
I know. You actually look exhausted. I mean,
you know, people really like when you say that to them. People really like when you tell them that.
You look exhausted in a very handsome way.
Like, does anyone ever take that as a compliment?
Yes.
Or
maybe he means like gruff dad.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I accept that.
Thank you for the
father
save, Zach.
part,
I appreciate that.
I look very gruff and manly, you know.
Might be a dad. We don't.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know my life.
Not yet. Anyway, at least yeah, I don't know your past. And we've also got Jeff. Jeff, I want to congratulate you on the return of Pause for Popcorn, my man.
Thank you. Yeah, we recorded a review of Black Panther the other day, and it went pretty good.
It was fantastic. It was a really good episode, man. Was
Thanks.
it? And what's nice is that as I was watching it, you just kind of slipped right back into that role, man. And it was really good to see you, dude. When can we expect the next one?
We will see. There's some chatter around that new movie, and so maybe the next couple weeks we might have something.
Awesome.
Schedules line up.
Awesome. It's good to see that back, man. And Jay, our social media guy, dude, you continue to do a fantastic
What's
job.
up? I am drinking a liqueur.
Oh.
It is the orange flavor liqueur. It has no calories. and it's good.
But if
It's
it has
really
no,
good.
if it has no calories, what's the
Awesome.
point, man? It's supposed to make you big like me. It's supposed to make you hefty like I am, man. I'm getting hefty in the wrong way.
Hey, John, some of us are trying to live a straight edge life, so like, you know, no drugs, no alcohol, so
You got it, man. All right. So there's been some video game news that has happened this week that we want to get into. But first, as always, let's go ahead and talk about what we've been playing this week, and then I want to get into what Steve and Wout have been up to because they've been doing some really cool shit. So I want to, you know what? Let's start with our guests. Wow, why don't you start us off, man? What are you playing this week, dude?
I'm still playing Monster Hunter, as everybody else, it seems. But I also been playing, and I want to talk about this with everyone, Iconoclast on the PlayStation Vita.
Yes,
I'm
my
sure.
man.
Yes. Because that is probably one of my favorite games of the year so far. I know we're only February, but that game is amazing.
It is fucking outstanding.
Yes.
I'm right at the final boss right now.
Oh, you are?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you haven't played this game, like I'm not even sure how to describe it. It's like a platformer, but with a JRPG level story in it. And it completely took me by surprise.
Dude, it's a dark fucking story.
Oh my goodness. I did not see that coming. Like it gets dark. It gets dark quick, and it starts off so light and funny. And then at the end, you're like, oh my God, this is some real material that they're throwing at you for a platform Metroidvania game-like thingy on the Vita, no less.
Well, can I just say, wow, that Agent Black is a nomination for the best villain in years.
Oh yeah, she is so good.
She's such a good fucking character. Oh,
yeah,
man.
and Mina is probably one of my favorite characters, sidekick characters that I've seen in a long, long time. Like she's so sassy, and for like that art style, there's a lot of expression going on, and it's there's one scene that I remember where she gets like really, really angry, and how he did that is just amazing. This is one dude who made this whole game over the past 10 years. I highly recommend it. If you have a Vita, it's almost a must buy. And it's cross-buy. You buy it once, you get another PS4 in your Vita. So I'm like wholeheartedly shilling for this game because everybody should.
wait till it comes to my turn, dude. I'm gonna spend my time just completely talking about Iconoclasts.
Good.
But this is a game that would be perfect on Switch, by the way. Nintendo.
Yes.
Please.
I think the dude needs a little break after 10 years, but they should just send him some of the Nintendo money and make sure it happens.
I just want to point out, wow, you made a good point. One fucking guy made this game.
Oh yeah,
it's
nuts.
Oh, yeah, over 10 years.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
He's a super nice guy too, because I got a code to review it. And at some point, I was for sure that I broke the game because I did something where I had to make a jump and I grabbed the block and threw it off the screen, so I couldn't reach it. So I contacted him. I was like, dude, I think there's a game breaking thing. He was like, oh no, there's actually a secret double jump in this game. I was like, what? And this is like 14 hours in that I discovered a secret double jump that I didn't even know about. It's super cool.
Can you really quickly, for those of us like myself who haven't played it, really quickly give me a rundown on how the gameplay works?
Yeah, so it has the main mechanics, I guess, is running, shooting. But the third one is your weapon is a big wrench. So most of the puzzle mechanics work with the wrench. Like you have to wrench doors to open them, and then they either open permanently or close slowly. It also acts as a somewhat of a grappling hook on. When you see bolts hanging in the air, you can jump from bolt to bolt by hitting them with your wrench. But it's a platformer with some gunplay. There's only a couple of guns in there. Like you have the bomb, you have the ray beam, but it just works together so incredibly well. And then he wove a story through it that will keep you going. I don't think I've ever seen it in a platformer story like that, to be honest.
I gotta tell you, like, wow, sorry to jump in, but man, dude, the story is the most surprising part of the package for me. I was not expecting that.
Oh no, not at all. It's a very good, very, very nice surprise. And it would work without the story too, because the gameplay itself is solid.
It is. It's so fucking good.
But this takes to another level, I think.
Awesome, dude. I'm so glad you brought up Iconoclast, man. Anything else you want to mention before we move on to Steve?
Well, Monster Hunter is still taking all my time. It's a perfect dad game for me. I can just jump in for 30, 40 minutes, and then go on with on my life. And I haven't completed the story yet, but it's just fun, especially with friends. If you play with friends, it's even better.
Yeah,
well, the story mission, Steve.
I find the game. I find the game
mission.
like borderline unplayable without friends, but that's a whole. That's
yeah,
a whole other story.
I'm doing air quotes when I say story, but you can't see that.
Yeah, which we can't see you.
Yeah.
All right, well we'll move on to Steve. Steve, what have you been gaming up this week, man?
I've been playing a horrendous amount of Escape from Tarkov.
You're gonna have to tell me. Okay,
yeah.
So can you explain it? Because I don't know much about this game.
Okay, so basically it's in beta at the moment, closed beta. I think it's going to be open beta later, end of this year or something, or middle of the year. And it's basically DayZ, the best parts of DayZ mixed with a little bit of PUBG, mixed with, I don't know, maybe just those two. It's a hyper-realistic, not specifically Battle Royale, but there is an element of, there's a bunch of players on a map that's sort of open world, like it's a much smaller map, a series of smaller maps. I'm explaining this terribly.
No, dude, keep it up, keep going, man.
It's just, I didn't realize I was a sadomasochist until I played this game, and now it's ticking those boxes for me.
That's awesome.
It's very punishing. Like you spawn into a round with your gear, and that's essentially what you're gambling with. So if you die, you lose everything.
Who's the developer on that?
It's some Russian developer, Battlestate Games, I think.
Okay.
It's not on Steam at the moment, but you can buy into the beta.
It's Stalker inspired, right?
I think there's definitely elements of that because there are.
Or at least aesthetically, it's close.
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
I mean, it's set in like a fictional Russian landscape. There are survival elements as well as the sort of very realistic gun dynamics and
Sounds
all
almost
that
like
stuff.
Metro. A little bit.
Kind of, but it's more set in contemporary times. It's not
Okay.
sci-fi at all.
Oh,
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, so there's not like mutated cannibals and monsters running around, and okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
It's just you and other players and AI soldiers.
Awesome.
Awesome, dude.
It's
Anything
really
anything else you're playing this week? You wanna rap about?
No. I'm supposed to be playing Kingdom Come Deliverance. I just can't bring myself to start it for some reason because Tarkov is consuming my life.
It's been a difficult year for games, man. Like when you think about 2017 up till now, man, there's been so many fucking games to play. I find myself getting pulled in so many different directions. It's driving me crazy. All right, dude. Thank you so much for chiming in with that. Why don't we go ahead and move on to, you know what? Since Finn has been gone for 3 weeks, let's start with Finn. So I guess here's the question. Have you been playing anything at all, or have you been waking up in a hotel room you know what? I'm going to let you explain where you've been the past 3 weeks.
Just admit that you had no idea where you were going with that.
Yeah, I did. Dude, you know what? This is some
Really
strong
funny.
shit, and I'm drinking it quickly, okay?
Okay. No. I mean, for 1 week I was in Mardi Gras, so I didn't do anything. But I came back and I've kind of been. I played Shadow of the Colossus for the very first time.
You never played that before.
Well, yes and no. I had played it on the PS2, beaten the first Colossus, and then dropped it for reasons I can no longer remember why. And then it had been in my backlog perpetually, and I just recently beat it. The Shadow of the Colossus is finally off the backlog.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, I don't have enough time for 3 minutes. Good. I can see why it's so beloved. I didn't have camera issues like everyone else seemed to. I was playing along with Socky, and it was kind of fun just trying to figure out each pattern and trick to taking down each Colossus together. So we kind of, I don't want to say predicted the story, but you could tell where it was going, and it was not going to be good. And now I'm just consumed with how it connects to Eco, if it's just fan theories or something, but I really enjoyed it. I beat Iconoclasts. Absolutely love that game, so high five to Woot for having excellent taste.
Did you say Woot? Did you say Woot?
Yeah, I'm calling him Woot. That's his name for me. Get over it.
He's not an emoji. Anyway, keep going.
Woo!
Although he could be an emoji. Anyway, please continue.
I'm on the final story campaign of Dragon Ball Fighters, because damn, do I love that game. Go Lord Yamcha, best character of all. I played an iOS game called Florence, which is less.
Oh, I've heard it's
I've
great.
heard about that
It's
too.
less of a game and more just an interactive web comic that kind of hits you in the feels. But I quite enjoyed it for what it was. It was a very brief and nice experience. I want to say that's it. Monster Hunter, Dragon Ball, Shadow, Iconoclasts. Yeah, it's been busy. I picked up Secret of Mana, but I haven't jumped in that yet. That's about it. Looking forward to Ni no Kuni.
I want to play Dragon Ball so bad, but I don't want to drop 60 on it because I only gonna play the story.
What system?
Finn is about to shill.
PS4.
Hold on, everybody, get ready for the shilling. Here comes the shilling.
What?
No, please continue.
I think it's a very good game, and everyone should play it. I have no horse in this race.
Oh no! Don't stop there, Finn. Please, I know you want to cut loose.
So bad, but I feel like I shouldn't.
I talked to my students about the Dragon Ball fighting game yesterday. It's been a huge hit, a really huge hit.
I'll tell you, it's selling well too, right?
Yes, very.
Yeah.
I mean, it only was outsold by Monster Hunter.
That's fucking nuts.
I bought it. I bought it the weekend it came out, and I played it one time for 30 minutes while my girlfriend got ready before we went out to dinner, and I haven't touched it since. And I feel really bad because like what I played was fine,
See,
but I don't think I'm coming back. Oh my god, who just dropped something?
wow, somebody
Oh,
just
that
like
was
dropped
me.
dead. That was really.
I hope you're
No.
okay.
Yeah, are you all right?
Yeah,
Whoever that was.
That was my mic or my camera that I just threw against the wall.
Wow, it's throwing
Okay.
shit around. His
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
good.
Yeah. Anyway, who's next? What you guys been playing?
Well, I think Finn was still going.
Oh, Finn, keep it going. Let's
Keep
go.
going.
I-
This
I-
train
I-
doesn't stop,
I-
Finn.
I did the ding
I
ding
hit
ding.
my time limit. I just.
Oh,
I
did we
didn't
hit
wanna
his? Did
go
Finn hit his
over it.
time limit?
Yeah, he did. I did the ding ding ding.
Okay, so here's my question, Jay, you are the deciding official on this, so don't feel bad about saying yes or no. Since Finn has been gone for so long, should we give him another minute? You're the timekeeper, so it's up to you. This is a big decision.
Oh shit! Fuck. Sure. Why not?
Finn,
Let's
you got
just
one more
give it
minute.
a
Go. 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 Go.
We just spent a minute deciding that.
There's one rule.
1 minute. Go,
Literally
Finn.
just going to spin this minute.
He can only talk
Talk
about Dragon Ball
about-
Fighters.
How Dragon Ball Fighters has vindicated. Okay, so for my entire adult childhood life, Yamcha's been my favorite character, and I've been shit on for liking him because he's been quote unquote garbage because people don't understand things and they use facts. But in Dragon Ball Fighters, he's legitimately one of the better characters. And now that we got Dragon Ball in Evo, we live in a timeline where most likely Yamcha will be streaming in the championship on ESPN live from the Mandalay Bay Arena at Evo, and I cry tears of joy, and that's really all that it comes down to. Yamcha's the best, Lord Yamcha. Wolf Fang Fist Life. What? I'm done.
No, I just wanted to give Finn a minute to chill because I know he wanted it so bad.
Dragon Ball Fighters, not Dragon Ball Fighter C. It's in stores now. It's $60, and it's good.
You know what?
I heard their marketing team is very amazing and just awesome people.
Why can't we get some sponsorship then, Finn?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. You don't know. You're not
don't
shilling SDGC hard enough.
I need to. I'm so sorry. I'll do better.
Chill
I
harder
promise.
next time, Finn. Anyway, let's move on to you know what? Let's go to Jay. Jay, what you been playing this week, buddy?
Oh, hold on, let me start the timer. I haven't been playing
There
a
you
lot
go.
this week. I've been playing a lot of Steep. If you don't follow me on Twitter, Steep clips, because I've been playing a lot of Steep game when I go off work. It's just nice and relaxing.
You posted this one clip. the
I
other
finally
day that
hooked up
was
my
amazing.
PlayStation 2 to my new TV because I haven't done that in the 2 months I've owned my new TV, and I started Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 again,
Ooh,
which
nice.
is still an excellent game.
Mhm.
Like, I came to the realization that this is like the last when I think of Tony Hawk games, I always think of like Tony Hawk games and errors. Like I think 1 through 3 is the classic error. I think 4 through like American Wasteland is like the. I don't know. I think of like the Tony Hawk games and errors, and like I think Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 is like the last like true Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game.
Yeah, I'd agree
it's
with
really
that.
weird to explain, but like it's not like a trick attack game. It feels like an actual skateboarding game, and I don't know. It's nice. Though I miss having the ability to like get off your board. That in the later games, to be honest.
I'd love I'd love a good Tony Hawk skater game again.
Never gonna
Tony Hawk
happen.
we haven't had a good Tony Hawk game since Project 8.
No.
So it's been a long time.
I bought the latest one a couple years ago.
Is that the one where you stand on the physical board and try and kickflip and destroy?
No, that's
the
Tony Hawk Ride.
Tony
Yeah.
Hawk Ride, and I did own Tony Hawk Ride. I bought it actually.
Whoa,
You were the one person who bought
yeah.
a copy of that game.
Wow. Okay.
I got a Best Buy gift card for my birthday or Christmas one year, and like it was already on clearance, and I got it for like $5.
Was that the one where they're like, hold up your skateboard to the Xbox 360 Connect, and we're gonna scan in your board?
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah. Remember when that was a thing?
for like a minute? Yeah.
Or was supposed
Yeah,
to?
I've also been playing. If you guys don't know about this, there's a mod for Tony Hawk's Underground 2 on the computer called Thug Pro, and it pretty much like it's trying to streamline all the old Tony Hawk games and like put them into like one ultimate package, and you can play it online with like other people, and it's a lot of fun.
Thug Pro is actually my Reddit handle. Weird.
That is
Shut up,
totally
John.
weird. But I've been playing a lot of extreme sports games this week, which is not a problem with me at all. I missed extreme sports games. I'm kind of glad that Steep came along because it's reminded me why I love games like this so much. So
You guys just need another Tony Hawk game to put in your top 10.
Yeah,
I do.
there are
Actually,
3 weren't enough.
there are a lot of
Actually,
things
if
we
I
need to
had to
put in our
put one
top
more,
10.
if I had to put one more in my top 10, it would or top 100, it would definitely be Tony Hawk's Underground. And with that, I am done.
We all know that Final Fantasy VI is probably the number 2 game of all time at the
Yeah,
least.
behind Witcher,
I think
behind Witcher 3.
I think
At
that
the
Tony Hawk's
least.
Underground has to be 6. So
I'm just
you can
saying.
suck.
I'm just saying. Final Fantasy VI was fucking robbed by some bullshit because of the rules.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. But I
But
want
let
to.
it
You know
be
what?
known that
Well,
we're being true to the
Well,
rules.
also, I think that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 influenced the game industry more than Final Fantasy 6 did. So
Oh god.
You are fucking smoking some incredibly potent peyote, and I want you to send me some immediately because I want to be as high as you are right now. I'm just saying, Jay. I'm just saying. But anyway, let's move on to Jeff. Let's do Jeff. Jay, you want to start the timer? Jeff, what have you been playing this week, dude?
I haven't been playing much. Basically, just a little bit of Siege, which I picked up on PC. The rest of my time has been spent watching the Winter Olympics nonstop. Shout out to Canada. We just got first and second, gold and silver, just 5 minutes ago in women's ski cross.
yeah.
Got our ass kicked by the USA yesterday. They beat us in curling and women's hockey. But yeah, Olympics are cool. Ice skate's awesome, or ice dance. If you guys haven't watched that, Scott Moyer, Tessa Virtue got gold. I want to give a shout out to like our big sports audience on here. I know they're there.
Yeah,
I know you guys are
all four of us are railing.
It's a shame.
Jeff, I agree with Jeff. The Olympics are dope.
Yeah,
Though I
like
quit.
they
I
should
quit
put
watching after U.S. men's hockey was just sucking.
they should put skateboarding back in the Summer Olympics. They got snowboarding in the winter, so I don't know. Maybe Tony Hawk can come
I think
back.
skateboarding is coming, like not in the next Summer Olympics, but the Summer Olympics after, from what I recall.
Anyways, that's been my week. But Siege on PC is good. I'm ready for season 3. They got the Outbreak coming out, a new mode. It's basically like a 3-man co-op, kind of like Left 4 Dead-esque version. It'd be
That
interesting
looks
to see how
really
that
good,
plays
by the way, Jeff.
in Siege. It does, yeah. It's only a limited time thing, which sucks. It's like 4 weeks. So hopefully they extend that or bring it back. It seems like a waste to build up all those character models and enemies and design that whole thing only to have it for a month.
Do you guys
But,
think if there's enough fan outreach or enough fan outcry, if it's popular enough, do you think they'll keep it around?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll at least keep it around or like introduce it periodically. Like it'll come back from time to time. I don't think it'll go away forever. That just seems like Yeah.
waste.
Unless it
Seems
like
fucking
totally
waste.
bombs and nobody likes it.
Or I don't know, Jeff. Let me ask you this: do you think they're afraid that people will like it so much that they won't want to play the base game anymore, kind of like Fortnite?
No, because I feel like there's only certain operators available in Outbreak. You can't play as all of them. Certain ones are balanced and tuned
Okay,
for the
I didn't
game.
know that.
And I like, yeah, maybe there's some people that will buy the game and that's all they'll play. But I feel like the people who play Siege, the millions of people, the bread and butter of the game is still the base thing. So I don't think that's really too much of a worry. And they've got enough player count on all platforms. I think they don't need to worry about fragmenting it between the two either. So
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't see why they wouldn't want to keep it around. The cosmetic packs, you can only buy them with real currency. You can't earn them in game, which some people are upset about. But it's like, man, if it's popular and they're making lots of money off that, it seems silly to me to just get rid of it.
I agree completely. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff. Anything else, my man?
Sorry, no, I muted myself.
Okay, I was going to
again.
say I
know
will
that's
take
it.
that
I'm done.
silence as a no.
I muted it, and then I went to hover over unmute, but my like Chrome window popped up over top of it, and I couldn't click it. So, anyways,
Okay.
carry on.
Well, we will move on to my man Zach. Zach, let's reset the clock and
Okay.
get into what Zach's been playing.
Yeah, so I can keep it brief. I similarly have been playing a lot of Siege on PC. I now own it on all 3 platforms where you can own it, which is ridiculous.
Marcel would be proud.
He would. Marcel would be proud. It's really good on PC. But similarly, I have been playing the Outbreak mode in the test server. There's no NDA, so I can briefly say it's pretty good. It does remind me a lot of Left 4 Dead, but there are some cool Siege formula things like protecting valuable targets and that sort of thing. The new character models are good. It feels like they revamped a lot of the design and graphics for this mode, which is crazy again for it being a limited time mode. Part of my guess is that this mode will come and go because each time it comes and goes, that's an article that can be published. That's increased a discussion around the game. It's good. I think we'll see it a lot this year. It shouldn't work for a Tom Clancy game, but damn, it does.
Zach,
it's a good game.
Zach, let me ask you a question about Outbreak mode. Do the shooting
Sure.
mechanics? So I've played Siege. And this sounds a little bit more trigger happy than the actual base game does.
It absolutely is. Yep.
Do the shooting mechanics in Siege allow for a smooth transition into something that's more trigger happy, or do you find, or has the style of gameplay changed at all?
So they've done some things that are specific for Outbreak mode. For example, some of the reloads and some of the characters are faster to lend it a little bit better to the mode.
Okay.
And also they've intentionally made it so I think there's only like 8 characters that you can play as in Outbreak currently. So some of the operators from the base game won't be there, and that's just because they don't flow well with the new mechanic. I was talking to Marcel about this, and it shouldn't work, but damn, Outbreak is a lot of fun. But you were kind of mentioned earlier, do you think it'll pull away from the current audience? I don't think it will. I think the game said a couple months ago they announced 25 million players. Now they're up to 27.
That's unbelievable.
I think Siege is here to stay, and I think this new mode will definitely find an audience.
Guys,
it's gonna be
good. Let me ask. Like, this is for the whole group. Are Ubisoft? Are they not masters of the turnaround? I mean, first Siege, and now For Honor is experiencing a huge turnaround.
And Division.
And the Division. The Division.
And Division.
Finn, that's a great
May
fucking point.
I think what we've seen with sorry, go ahead, Finn.
I just want to make one quick point, and I'll defer to you, is that the difference, I think, between Ubisoft games and other games with services that struggle is that Ubisoft does not let an initial poor response or not blow it out of the water reception stop them from supporting their game. Like all of these games, most people had forgotten Siege was a thing when it started to finally turn around.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, a testament to them and their take on it, is that they keep supporting it. They keep giving it emphasis, and then it always seems to turn around and benefit them. And I really wish more people would do that rather than throw their game under the bus, fire the team, and move on. Like, can you imagine if Mass Effect had been given the chance to get that kind of support?
I can, and it will make me weep openly on this podcast, and I'm not sure you guys want to see that right now.
I mean,
Wout actually may want to see that because Wout loves it when I.
They've been supporting the multiplayer for still. They just released a new patch pack for that like 2 weeks ago. But I agree. Yeah, Ubi is amazing when it comes to support of their games.
Marcel, get our check in the mail, my man.
It's not just their like multiplayer games either. I think they're realizing that they can keep a lot of their games going with these kind of like with Watch Dogs 2, they had a couple DLC packs and they had some online events for the online modes there. And then Assassin's Creed Origins, you look at things like they're doing like their Discovery Tour, which is completely free of charge. And again, not all these modes and editions are going to be for everyone, but they're really good about just adding to their games continually and trying to make sure that they make something that no matter who you are, you can kind of get in there and enjoy it and make it accessible. And like Matt said, like they support it even if it's not selling 10 million copies out of the gate. They listen to fans. They're very active on certain communities, especially I know with Siege, on the Reddit page and Twitter and stuff like that with the fans. Like even if they aren't necessarily posting all the time, like responding to people, they are reading everything. You can tell that they listen because a lot of times you see that feedback reflected in the updates and patches for the games. And I think that's the important thing, is just that kind of level of communication and responsiveness. And kind of they're very good at giving the direction for the game. They say, here's our road plan. Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to fix what's wrong. And that's one thing I think that's frustrated a lot of people with Bungie, is that they've been pretty poor in that regard. So yeah, they're killing it right now. And I mean, like who else is doing all these new IPs and trying all these crazy things? Like Steep. Nobody would make that kind of game except Ubisoft, even if it maybe didn't sell, a few million copies. And what they're doing with Skull and Bones and For Honor, like just these very different types of games.
Well, don't forget Far Cry Primal either, Jeff. I mean, that was a huge risk for them.
Yeah, and that did really well too. I understand some people are kind of a bit tired of that formula, but generally that was another well-received game. So, like this generation, I can't think of another publisher really that's, maybe there's been some with bigger hits, more, maybe more impactful or innovative stuff, but on a consistency level, I can't think of anyone that's rolling like Ubisoft is right now.
I mean, I would say that in the podcasting realm, like SDGC is taking the biggest risks by having a sock puppet as their mascot. So in a way, you could say that we are pioneering and taking risks in this space, just like Ubisoft is taking risks in the gaming space. Steve, I don't know. Steve, what do you think about
that? What I do want to ask, other than your weird sock puppet thing, is does this mean that Wildlands will actually be a fun game eventually?
Whoa, hang on. Let me do a quick advocacy for Wildlands. You
just started some shit.
I loved it at the start.
No. Okay.
I played it for more than 20 hours, and now I hate myself.
Last
Zach, you have a minute.
January, they added Ghost Wars, which is a 4v4 PvP multiplayer mode. It is reminiscent of the Ghost Recon Advanced Warfare era. It's pretty fucking good. Like, it's the most fun I've had with Wildlands. I've had Wildlands for like a number of months and I've barely touched it. Ghost Wars is pretty fucking good. I'd recommend it.
If by last January, do you mean 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it's been that kind of year. Yep.
All right, guys. Why don't we let John discuss what he's been playing?
Don't you guys want to hear what I've been playing this week? Come on, guys. Jesus. So, I am going to take a page out of my man Wout's book, and I am going to shill for Iconoclasts. And Wout, please back me up. Cut in whenever you want. And I will also say that I've been playing some Bridge Constructor Portal. For review. Iconoclasts. 2D platformer. In the vein of, your classic Metroidvania game, but it takes its art cues and its gameplay cues heavily from something like Metal Slug, I think would be a great comparison. Wout, if you would agree. I don't know, Wout, do you agree with that?
A little slower than that, I think.
A little slower, but I'm talking like the visuals and the explosions.
Yeah.
Very, very Metal Slug. The story itself is heavily steeped in religious fanaticism. And man, like for such a colorful 2D pixelated platformer, I was not expecting the level of one story, and the story gets fucking dark at points, and two, the level of writing. The writing in Iconoclast is absolutely second to none. I mean, it is just an incredible fucking experience. I'm at the very last boss right now, and I have played. So I went through and did everything. So I'm about 22 hours into a 15-hour game, right? So I went through and did everything because I'm so in love with this game. The like if I had to criticize it, like Robin, who is the protagonist, is a silent protagonist, so, and I generally am not a fan of silent protagonists. I like to be able to know what the character's motivations are, to know what the character's thinking. So in that regard, I feel like that's kind of a letdown. But aside from that, some of the characters in this game, like Wout mentioned, are just some of the best we have seen in years. And it's because of the writing, like the writing. I can't stress that enough. Like Agent Black is one of the... So, without spoiling anything, like there's this cult that runs the world called the One Concern. And they have these agents, these superhuman agents that that receive power from their god. And so they are, some of them can shoot lasers from their eyes, some of them can shoot, move really fast. And there's this one agent, she's one of the main antagonists. Her name is Agent Black. They all have names based on colors, like Agent Silver, Agent Chrome, Agent Black, Agent White. Agent Black, and I'll toss it to Wout and Finn, but Agent Black is one of the best gaming antagonists in the past 5 years. She is vicious. But she has a lot of characterization. Near the end of the game, you start to see her facade kind of crumble, and she starts becoming more manic as everything she believes in is. She starts to question her place in things. But
if you spoil stuff, I'll kill you.
I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah.
But Agent Black is just like she's one of those characters where whenever she's on screen, you stop what the fuck you're doing. Like, sometimes we'll be playing a game and checking Twitter. When Agent Black shows up, you put your phone down, you stop whatever you're doing, and you pay attention to what she's saying. Because
ding.
Anyway, Iconoclast, a fucking amazing game. Everybody should play it. And you know what? I'll go over 30 seconds because I'm the man up in this piece, and I do whatever I want. Sorry, Jay.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
Hellboy better than this game.
What's that?
Owlboy.
Hellboy?
Owlboy.
Owlboy. So, okay, Jay, can you give me one more minute to talk about Owlboy? Is that okay? Give me one more minute to talk about Owlboy.
Let's take a vote here.
Who wants me to talk about Owlboy for 1 minute? Hard minute.
Just go.
All right, I'm going. I'm fucking going.
Just go.
I'm going. So I finished Owlboy earlier this week. Great game. I will agree with everybody who says the game is weaker in the back end than it starts off. It is visually one of the most beautiful 2D platformers I've ever seen in my life. It's better looking than Iconoclasts. It's animated better than Iconoclasts. The story is great, but near the end of the game, the combat kind of falls off and it becomes super cutscene heavy. And in a 2D platformer, that's never a good thing. Plus, the game is buggy. It crashed on me twice. It actually crashed on me the minute I beat the final boss, which is very difficult. And I had to go back and play through the final boss again, which took me another 30 minutes. But I would say that I prefer Iconoclasts to Owlboy simply because of the story and the gameplay. I'm done.
I only asked because you like Boy is just like the best fucking game of all time when you first started playing it, and then like towards like the latter half of the game, you're like, man, like fuck this game, like this game, like the design in this game sucks.
To be fair, that's like John with every video game he plays. Like the first 30 minutes, like game of the year contender, and like 5 hours later.
Okay, first of all, that is not true, and second of all, I never said the game sucks. Owlboy is the furthest thing from sucks that is possible. However, I will say that the game is considerably weaker in the last 5. It's about a 10-hour game. It's considerably weaker in the last 4 or 5 hours than it is. It starts strong and just kind of goes downhill. But the ending will fucking ruin. The ending will kill you. Like it is such a incredible ending for a game.
Does the owl boy find out that he's not actually an owl, but he was just a boy?
He was a real boy the whole time. But I will cut myself off there and stop talking about 2D platformers.
Yeah. All right, sounds good.
Yeah, man, shut up. But anyway, so we had thought about we were thinking about topics tonight, and I had thrown it out to Steve and Wout, and I said, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? And we want to talk about violence in video games, especially since that's kind of the big topic right now. Before we do that, and I just wanted to mention that real quick because it's going to kind of be a somber discussion. But before we do that, I want to touch real quick on what Wout and Steve are working on. So, wow, you have been posting a lot of art on Twitter, for example. Did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, I'll just do a quick thing on it. So I have a 3-year-old daughter, and every time we do like little things together, crafts, either it's drawing or painting or even Play-Doh, all she wants me to do is make Elsa for her. And I have never drawn in my life. So this year or last year, I was like, you know what, next year, I'm going to learn how to draw just to blow her little mind. So that's what started off my project Elsa. And I've been doing it for like 53 days in a row now. So every day I just take an hour in my evening to draw an Elsa princess for her. And to be honest, it's a lot more fun than I thought it would be, because I've never really been creative in that aspect. Like I've always been a writer, words kind of guy. But I've always wanted to learn how to draw. And I'm slow, but I guess it takes like 10,000 hours to get remotely good at it. But it's a good stress reliever, I think, because it forced me to just take a break and not stare at the screen all the time. So it's fun. I post it live as a little bit of a diary, and I'm gonna keep the book. So when she's like 45 and she goes into my crawl space and she finds these books, I hope it's a good memory for her to go through. But it's fun. I like doing it. It's anything for the tiny one.
Is she not taking part in your drawings?
No. That's actually it's me drawing. It's not her.
No. But I mean, is she not like watching you do it, or
no? I show her just to like. So who's this? And she goes like Elsa. I'm like yes.
Nice. That's adorable.
That's how you know you're getting close. Okay.
That's right.
So wow, you're telling us that you have never drawn before? Because you are extremely talented.
Well, I don't know. If you draw the same thing every day for an hour, I think at some point you kind of have to get it right by chance. But every month I try to get a new model. So I've done 2 now. But I follow it line by line. I have it on my screen, or I was going to show you, but I don't have my camera on. So hopefully I'll get there. But ask me to draw a banana, and I can't even fucking do it now. All I do is Elsa's eyebrows.
Someone will say banana, and you'll just draw Elsa instinctively.
Yeah, you'll get like an eyebrow or something like that.
Hey, I want to give. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
No. Wow.
Oh no! And for the rest, I'm gonna restart the podcast that I used to do when I was with Daily Crate. So that's hopefully gonna be fun. I'm gonna record the first episode tomorrow, also with Steven, if I can get my webcam to work. That is, and we'll be talking Black Panther tomorrow.
Ooh, very good.
I want to give a quick shout out to Anthony John Agnello from Continue Podcast and GamesBeat in chat. Our boy
Anthony,
my man, Anthony in chat. Should show up more. Anthony, show up more often, man. We love you. We need to get you back on. Wow, anything else you want to talk about in the gaming space that you're working on, man? Leading up to PAX?
From the game, no, I've been starting to get my own thing up again. It's fun to write for others, but I figured I'll give it a try under my own flag now. So it's slow but sure.
Awesome, dude. You're doing a fantastic job. In fact, Mitty in chat, who's an artist, let me say that your stuff is pretty impressive.
Thanks, Mitty. That's so cute.
And Anthony actually says, "I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the show. I was caught up with Celeste. I'll have to pick his brain on that later because I still have not finished Celeste." Steve, dude, my man,
Yo.
what have you been working on recently, dude?
I can't talk about what I'm working on right now, but I don't think it'll surprise anyone when we do announce what it is. We're just carrying on with our virtual reality stuff at Clouded Games. So yeah, stay tuned for announcements on that.
So let me ask you this then. So I know from a quick conversation that you and I had before we went live that, for anybody in chat who doesn't know, Steve is Steve and Neil Blomkamp, the director of Cousins. Steve, you were a consultant on some short films that Neil did. And I know that there was a lot of buzz around that in the video game community because he was using video game tech essentially to create these short films of his, and so one, what can you tell us about that, and two, is this leading up to something?
Well, yeah, it's all about experimentation with him. So the whole point of the Art Studios was to just be free of like the Hollywood restrictions and stuff, and just make whatever is in his mind and see what people like, and if they sort of, if it resonates with people, then keep making what they like, which is why each short is so different from the other one. Regarding the game technology thing, I mean, Neil's all about, continuing with the experimentation theme, he's all about, like, just trying new stuff. So that whole partnership with Unity, continuing the Adam series, he just wants to make find new ways to make new films. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Dude, that's outstanding. Oh man, I'm so fucking curious about what you're working on though, man. I know you can't talk about it, but
if you can't talk about what you're currently doing, can you talk to people, tell people in the audience what you've done in the past and how they can check out some work from before?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a good idea. Clouded Games, we make virtual reality adventure games, specifically an episodic series called The Gallery. And we were a launch title for the Vive. Cloudhead's got a long history of like inventing all the stuff that VR basically takes for granted now, which is pretty cool. Like just comfort mode and snap turns and all the standard industry practices are actually like stuff they were dicking around with ages ago. So there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of sort of us just trying to figure out what's fun and what's cool, and the fans seem to like it. So yeah.
Well,
awesome.
Steve, let me just say that you are fun and cool, my man.
Oh, I'm paying him.
Even you're not even wearing your Socky shirt, man, and I'm shilling for you. So
I will fix that.
Oh, is he gonna put his Socky shirt on? My man, look at that. He's going to do it.
Okay.
I finally beat him down. I broke him down enough to where he's actually gonna do it. So I wanted to go ahead and okay. So I just want to point out that Finn's camera was off. And when he turned it back on, it was like a slideshow, and I saw Caitlin like apparate past him like some kind of spirit.
Caitlin?
Oh God, here we go. Jesus Christ. Well, the fucking dumpster fire star. Oh, look at that!
Hey, look, here it is.
Look at that! Oh shit! That is.
Doesn't really go with this.
That is
Kylo Ren jersey.
The most.
The height of fashion.
That is the most incredible thing I have ever seen, and I'm not going to confirm to you. I'm not going to tell you whether or not that's a good incredible or bad incredible.
I just can't get over like how such a bad crop job ended up on merchandise.
Well, instead it all goes to charity. I hope it actually all goes to charity.
It actually did. It actually did. It all went to charity.
I can assure you I made no money off of that.
Every dollar went to charity. I just want to point out that right now, Steve is wearing a shirt with an eldritch being on it. So, because that's what Socky is. Look at that. Proud. You guys think for 1 minute I'm not wearing mine to PAX, by the way? You're fucking wrong.
I totally would have bought one if it wasn't like $30 shipping to Canada.
That's your. Come live in America, Jeff.
The sales
come to America.
And we donated all of it to Child's Play.
So I want to go ahead and move on to.
Take for the charity.
I'm fucking Steve in that shirt. Holy shit. So I want to move on to our kind of our big topic tonight. As I had mentioned earlier, I had asked Steve and Wout if there was anything they particularly wanted to talk about, and they had what is a really a really good and relevant topic, and it's violence in games, and it's especially important now because of what happened in Parkland, at Parkland High School in Florida recently. Now, if anybody was watching the the Republican CPAC today. While that was going on, Donald Trump made some comments about the state of violence in video games, and he stated that it's a problem. People there was word going around that he wanted to ban violent video games, which he can't do because it's protected. It's protected speech under the First Amendment. And we've already had a vote on this, and even with, he would need 60 votes. So, there's been a lot of freak out on the internet about what Donald Trump wants to do with video games. And every time we have a school shooting, we go through this, right? It's, well, what do we ban next? What's the problem? How can we fix this problem? It's not guns. We got to ban something. We got to ban something. We got to ban everything but guns. And we wanted to talk about violence in games and whether or not it's actually a problem. And before we begin the conversation, I want to start with Wout, because he had some really good things to say in a DM that him and I and Steve were on. I want to just throw out something that was in the USA Today, talking about violence in games, and I think these are important statistics to know about. So Villanova University psychologist and researcher Patrick Markey says All we can really say for sure is that there does not appear to be a link at this time between violent video games and school shootings. Here's the important part. If there is a link, it goes in the opposite direction. That is, school shooters are actually less likely to be interested in violent games than their peers. A few, such as Virginia Tech gunman Sui Hui Cho, I'm buzzing right now, had no interest at all, a fact that surprised his roommate, who thought that it was weird he didn't play video games. In fact, only about 20% of school shooters play video games, compared with about 70% of high school students overall. And then he went on to say that school shooters as a group tend to do things that aren't typical of their peers. Now, as we all know, typical teenage behavior involves playing video games, many of them violent, and he says it's just a sign of a healthy childhood to do things that our peers do, even if parents don't like it. And I'm sure we were all teenagers at one point. Zach is technically still a teenager compared to some of us. So we could all, compared to some of us, Zach, compared to me, who was 37 years old. So yeah. And then I'll end on this, and we'll start off with Steve and Wout, because I really want to get their perspective on this. The perceived games and violence connection is nearly as old as the first-person shooter video game itself. After the Columbine attack in 1999, victims' families sued more than 24 game makers, saying games such as Doom, a first-person shooter that teen gunmen Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold played, desensitized them to violence. Now, a judge dismissed the lawsuits because the games weren't subject to product liability laws. They hadn't failed like a badly wired toaster, which I think is a great analogy. But the lawsuits and post-Columbine uproar in Congress added to a heated debate that had pushed the industry to adopt a rating system, the ESRB, similar to that of movies. So and now here we are, right? Like, we've been through multiple school shootings. We've been through Sandy Hook. We've been through the shooting in Paducah, Kentucky. We've been through what just happened in Florida. And I want to ask you guys, what do you guys think about the current state of violence in video games, and whether or not it has an effect on formative minds, or whether or not we can or should do anything to either censor content in violent games or do more to prevent the sale of violent video games to minors. And I want to start with Wout, because Wout, you had some great things to say in chat. I'd like you to expound on that if you don't mind.
Yeah. So to start off, I am heavily in the camp that I don't think that playing violent video games turn you into a maniac. But what I always worry about is when this topic comes up. Anytime video games are either under scrutiny or under attack or being looked at by people that don't know much, the gamer community tends to not show their best selves.
Yep.
Like, we get the knee-jerk reaction where we hunker down and nothing else matters than to protect our games. And I think that is doing a disservice to the conversation that could be had. Like, I don't think we need to explain again how it's not related to real life violence, but I think there's still a conversation to be had about how we consume violence in our media, in our video games, because there's a reason why these games sell so well, and why it's such a staple in our entertainment, like violence, gunfire, and all those things. And I think that there's some interesting conversations to be had. And what I think most of all is that it might not be the content itself that is a problem, but I think there should, at some point, someone should take a look at communities around video games, because I think there might be something there that we need to take a closer look at. Because when you go through some of these communities nowadays, and this is super strange to me, when you go online, and let's not call it gaming communities, but internet communities in general, there are people who idolize these kind of events. Like, there are websites that talk about high scores when it comes to school shootings, and by that you kind of bring in the video game flavor these things.
Like, anybody's still playing games for fucking high scorers, you know?
Yeah. Like, what is it, 1980s?
That always kills me.
But we, and I say we as the game community, often have an immediate knee-jerk reaction to throw ourselves onto that grenade, and not have the conversation at all, or just be dismissive of the conversation. And I think there is something there that we could help either educate, and I don't think we can educate these regulators by just brushing this off.
Yeah.
I think, yes, we need to have that conversation, and we need to send the best of our best to have this conversation, and that does not always happen.
So I see Steve. Steve has a very thoughtful look on his face, and Steve, I want to get your take on this.
Oh no, well, I mean, I'm kind of on the same page as Wout, but part of me was just thinking it's so dismissive of all the things at play here to even single out games. Like there's a conversation. Okay, give me a second. There's a conversation to have there, but there's so much at play already, feeding into this whole kind of super violent, aggressive culture that. To conveniently look at games or any media or some sort of scapegoat as the thing to focus on and fix just wipes everything else under the rug. It's kind of frustrating. I don't know. It's just it just
we get
builds up
defensive
and-
about it, right, Steve? I mean, because this is a hobby we love, and when somebody, especially the most powerful man in the world, says, well, maybe video games are the problem, it makes all of us, and maybe you guys feel differently. And this is for the whole group now. It sounds like it makes me feel like, well, maybe you're the problem. Like that's what you're really saying, right? Is that it's not even the games, it's the people playing them.
But this entire thing is how insular the whole issue is just to like the States almost, because video games are everywhere and there aren't school shootings everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a fantastic point. Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple things, and it's mostly just iterating on things you've already said. First of all, I don't think that the Trump administration or the conservatives or even some NRA mouthpieces who say the same thing genuinely believe it has anything to do with games. I think that the conversation right now is that the general public is on the offensive against guns, and they know if they look at video games, they can go. People who are on the offensive about guns will suddenly become defensive and talk about their games or their movies that are violent. I think it's genuinely a distraction from the bigger conversation at hand. I mean, like, I don't need to sit here and tell you that I've played violent games forever, and I would never hurt someone. None of you guys would either. It's not even worth suggesting. This is a distraction. There's nothing more to it than that.
Well, and so like we've got several people on this podcast right now who do not live in the United States, right? You got Steve, you've got Wout, and you've got Jeff, who do not live in the United States. And Jeff, I'll throw it to you. In Canada, I don't know. So I don't know what gun laws are like in Canada, but you guys consumed video games just like we do, albeit more expensively, unfortunately. But Canada doesn't have the problems that we do with gun violence. But I mean, you've played Far Cry, you've played Grand Theft Auto. I mean, violent games sell just fine in Canada, and you don't share our problem with mass shootings, not just school shootings, but mass shootings. And Jeff, I wanted to ask you, seeing as how you guys consume just as many games as we do, why do you think that is?
I mean, there's so many different directions that this can go. And like Wout said, there's some really interesting ways to come about it. So like, I just want to explore a couple of them. First of all, I guess we'll start with what you just said, like talking about the difference between Canada and USA. A lot of people think that Canada doesn't have guns, which is false. I live in Alberta, which is very like prairie province, a lot of farms and stuff here. And there's, basically everyone outside the city probably has some sort of hunting rifle. It's a very popular pastime. And you'll have to forgive me, I actually don't know what the exact process is for buying a and I guess I don't want to get too far away from the video game subject, but that's just one aspect of it. It's not as easy, and you can't get the same weapons you can. And yes, we play the same games, we watch the same movies, but the culture is the big difference. I think when I see Canada versus USA, and a lot of that culture in the US, I think, comes from that Second Amendment. And people, you talk about knee-jerk reactions, defensiveness. People aren't using their brains. they just think that they have this right, and they don't go to the step of wondering, do we need this right? Maybe this should be changed. Maybe things that were the case 300 years ago are different now with advances in technology and society and the way that we operate. So, like, from a societal perspective, that's how I see it. When it comes to games themselves, I think that there is a very good debate to be had here. Maybe there are some things, not that games are causing this violence, but maybe there is something like Wout said about sensitivity to violence. I think the important distinction, and it's different for every kid and different for every family. We talk about parents controlling the message and controlling the content that their kids consume. Everyone has a different level and different age when they're ready to engage in that. I think a lot of kids are too young to deal with it, but the important thing is being able to separate reality from fiction. A big part of games is that power fantasy, feeling like you're in control. And I think that's where a lot of the criticism comes from, is and where it's different from movies, because you're actually in control and you're doing this, you're making that motion, you're pulling that trigger to shoot people. But like for me, when I play a game, when I play Rainbow Six Siege, I don't even feel like I'm killing people. Like I'm shooting targets, I'm shooting pixels. Like it's a game. The objective is to win that match. I'm not feeling like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm murdering a bunch of people.
Yeah. Well,
And but a lot of kids can't make that distinction. So, and when they grow up with this, maybe they aren't able to separate that as much. And maybe it's not about games making them killers, but maybe it's just now they're so used to this shooting and guns and ammo and, like it just, they don't have that same visceral reaction when they hear about these shootings or see these things on the news. Maybe it does desensitize them a little bit. And maybe that is still a valuable discussion, but I don't even know how we'd go about dealing with that. So sorry to ramble on. That's just my thoughts.
No, dude, you're good. So, you know what? Here's my thing. Like, I don't want my son, who's 9 years old, I wouldn't want him playing Call of Duty. I wouldn't even want him playing Halo, really. I mean, he's 9, but at the same time, I don't have a, like, I trust his ability to tell right from wrong, and I trust him to know. I trust him to know what to do, even at 9. Like, everybody has a moral compass, I believe, right? We can either choose to believe, we can either choose to follow our moral compass, or we don't. And the people who do these school shootings, it frustrates me when people just not only blame it on video games, but blame it on mental illness as well. Because I mean, I have GAD. I mean, I suffer from mental illness. I'm not fucking crazy. I'm not gonna go shoot anybody. But it's all about scapegoats, like a few of you guys have mentioned. And I don't like scapegoating at all. But there's something that somebody in chat, it was E of the Dead, mentioned that I think is important to talk about as well. He says, nobody ever talks about the violence done to gamers. And a good example is, he used the example of people being pissed off about Gordon Freeman and Gordon Freeman avatar in Final Fantasy 15 multiplayer. You know what? Just look at the era thread that got fucking shut down after 5 pages talking about Phil Spencer's comments at DICE about diversity in Microsoft. They had to shut that fucking thread down, and there were bans being thrown around, left and right. Look at Gamergate. I mean, gaming is a nasty fucking space sometimes, and you know what? Honestly, like, in a way, I don't blame people for immediately turning to video games. And I'm only saying in a way because we are sometimes so cruel and verbally abusive to each other that I feel like it's I don't know, you guys tell me what you think, but I feel like it's almost natural for some people to make that leap. Like, these are a bunch of disturbed individuals who are at each other's fucking throats constantly.
Look at Gamergate, right? I mean, that whether or not that that obviously doesn't encompass all gamers, but that largely spawned from the video game community. That movement, there's some good articles on there, was a big reason Trump got elected. It played a big role in that, and like Wout said, like, these communities surrounding gaming can be so toxic, whether or not they're directly performing or perpetuating violence. They absolutely encourage the hatred and that kind of culture of anger and toxicity that these people, it's not playing the video games, but it's being part of these communities, and that builds up inside them. And a lot of times, I think that's what causes or leads to these events.
Yeah, and I think the general desensitization to these things is when you see an incident like this happen. Like, for me personally, it breaks my heart. I the older I get, the more trouble I have even reading up on it. But then you see the jokes, and there is definitely a certain type of community that will jump on the occasion to meme these kind of things. And I think that level of desensitization is a community problem, and I would not be surprised if there is definitely an overlap between some of the more notorious gaming communities and those kind of people that make that joke. And if you have people who do not know, who are not as ingrained as we often are in these communities, just see the slight connection to gaming or gamers, then they're gonna zone in on that like a hawk. And then we send the angry troops out to like fight him, which only makes it look worse. So like John said, I'm not surprised that people will always look for that connection, because it's a bad rap. Even though there's so much good at the same time, it's not as prevalent, I think.
Yeah.
I think part of it is how many kids game. It's not just gaming. It's something to do with sort of our youth at large, where this kind of anonymity can really feed into some very negative behaviors, and we're just not discussing that. We're rather looking to other stuff instead, which is very unfortunate.
There was a really good Medium article last year about Pig videos on YouTube that are developed, not like developed by like the actual like creators of the Pig, but like Russian people, and they're more violent than like regular Pig videos are, but because they're free on YouTube, like parents allow their kids to watch it.
Oh man, don't get me started on YouTube algorithms with kid stuff.
I'm only bringing this up. I'm only bringing this up because I feel like for a lot of parents, like video games are a substitute for a babysitter.
Sure.
And like the kid, I feel like most of the time the kid will be like, "I want to play this Call of Duty," and the parents just like so sick that they just want their kid to for the kid and let them play.
I just want to point out, guys, real quick, like real quick, Jay, I'm sorry to interrupt. My computer wants to install fucking updates, and I don't know how to stop it.
Cool, Microsoft.
It's Microsoft. You can't stop it. You just strap in.
Are you fucking serious? Cool. It's gonna take the fucking stream offline if it does this.
Does it give you a time when it's gonna restart?
It just said starting soon, and I'm like, no, wait, I don't want to do that. Like, what the?
Too bad.
I don't want to fucking do this. I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
If we go offline, that's why.
Classic
John.
Classic John.
Classic SDGC. Anyway, please continue. Really. Please continue this important debate on video game violence. While I try to figure this out.
I'll continue. I didn't really play M-rated games until I was like 15. I got caught playing Vice City when I was 8, and I got grounded for it. So I had like a legitimate fear of playing M-rated games until I was like old enough to like ask my mom, "Hey, can I give you money to like buy me a game?" I mean, I think I knew as a 15-year-old, like a lot of violence in video games is over exaggerated, and like the video game reminds you at times that like you're playing a video game. My 8-year-old self, like when I was playing Vice City, I probably did feel like a murderer, like killing random NPC characters. But as a 15-year-old, I kind of got that like GTA is supposed to be kind of like satire in general.
Well, I feel like we're not giving kids enough credit for like differentiating reality and virtual reality.
I just want to point out
a lot of the adults who are worried about that sort of should ask themselves that question.
I mean, the thing is like some kids get it and some kids don't get it, you know, and like more about like the parent buying like their 8-year-old like Call of Duty. It's like maybe the kid feels like violence is I don't know, like a good thing or a positive thing that the parents like buying them this game and encouraging them to play it. That they have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think some oversight never hurts, but like you said, it depends on the kid. Like I had a coworker who let his 8-year-old play the same games as him, which is fine. Like whatever, you know, it's your kid, don't tell you what to do. But every time I saw that kid in a regular play situation, like not a video game, he was always murdering his sister with his imaginary guns. Like if I would see that in my child, I was like, okay, maybe we were gonna play some Stardew Valley instead of you know, make a garden outside. But like Steven says, like it's up to the parents as well to if you notice your kid has trouble with how to process that kind of imagery and interactivity, then you have to step in. Well, and it doesn't have to be for every kid, but
Yep.
Like,
Yeah,
pay some
like,
attention.
I'm not going to lie. Like, I never playing like Tekken 3 and 4 growing up, and like my cousin and I would try to recreate some of those matches sometimes. And like, we were young, like, and I'll admit now that it was stupid, and like I think we knew it was a video game, but sometimes like sometimes kids like don't know it's like video game. They think they can do it in real life.
I have distinct memories when I went to watch the Ninja Turtles when it came out, like the live action one. Like, pretty much me and all my friends were all doing flying high kicks, like, as soon as we left the theater. Like, that is just fact. Like, you want to do that when you're a kid.
Yeah.
But, we weren't killing anyone, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're gonna play football too, and all that other stuff. It's
There's not a lot of football movies out there, though.
no. Well, I mean, you'll idolize your heroes or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. But that's like, I have a garden in my backyard because I played 200 hours of Stardew Valley. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing that we haven't quite touched on is and I think this is different than previous huge acts of violence in the States, is that the people who we might consider to be the most vulnerable to violent games are the people who are making the loudest noise against guns right now, right?
Yeah.
We are seeing young people, this shooter's peers, coming out against firearms. This isn't like young people are okay with guns in mass, and I think that's really encouraging. And I totally think there's been a lot of really good points made about online communities and the language we use to each other, and even the behavior we use with online avatars, whether it be in VR or just standard multiplayer, is awful and toxic. But it's definitely a separate conversation from, like, is this leading to Columbines or Parkland shootings? Like, no, right?
No. And let's take that a step further, right? Like, let's look. So, the United States is the world's #1 consumer of video games, right? Like, we consume and play more video games than any other nation on earth. We're it. The #2 is the UK, right? The UK is the world's second largest consumer of video games. It's the second largest market for the gaming industry, right? And then I believe the third is Germany, I believe, and then Australia and Japan. I think I've got that right, but I know the UK is #2. And then you've got China. China is growing to be a huge consumer of video games, right? Each one of these countries don't have the problems with mass shootings and violence that we do, right? No. Politicians and concerned parents in the United States want to constantly blame video games, right? And of course, we get all defensive about it. And we say, well, no, video games are the problem. But what these people don't stop to think about is that countries like the UK, for example, which have banned guns, countries like Australia, which have banned guns, there hasn't been a mass shooting in Australia since 1996. That was their last one. And it's already, we're 2 months almost into 2018, and we've had, 10 mass shootings in the United States, most of them at schools. There is a commonality here that ties all of those together, and it's not video games, it's guns. And I don't want to turn this political. I don't want to start shilling for let's ban all the guns, because I don't necessarily think that's the answer either, simply because you just can't do it here. But video games, so there have been studies made that show not causality, but correlation when you talk about violence in games and violence in the real world, right? And people get these two terms mixed up. People say, "Oh, well, there's correlation," but what correlation is showing two things happening at the exact same time. Causation is one thing being the result of something else. And if you look at the crime statistics in the United States since 1995, when video games really started to come into their own with Super Nintendo, with the Genesis, every year since then, crime in the United States has gone down like clockwork. And these are FBI statistics. So, we heard the same song and dance in 2012. When Wayne LaPierre, who's the head of the NRA, after Sandy Hook, he got up there and he said and I'm quoting him. He said there is a shadow industry in the United States peddling vicious, violent video games that are corrupting our youth. And then he said, isn't fantasizing about killing someone as a way to get your kicks just the filthiest form of pornography? That's what he said. Like, I'm quoting this man. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I would venture. So I want to ask you guys: has anybody here ever fantasized about killing someone to get your kicks when you're playing a video game? Obviously,
Nope.
the answer is no, right? So I guess I guess my question is when you know, and this is for the whole group, when you look at what's happening with violence in the United States and the lack thereof in countries like Japan and the UK and Australia and Germany and Spain and the Netherlands and China and every other fucking country where people consume video games en masse and there's no violence like this, how do we make the point to politicians, to lawmakers, to concerned parents? How do we say this isn't the fucking problem? Look at something else. I'm not, and I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, it's all guns, it's all guns." That's not the point. This is a video game podcast. But what I want to know from you guys is, how do we get the point across to people?
I think, like Wout said, you need to get people from the game community, from the games industry, really involved, and get them to educate these people and kind of work with them, and you work with them and work with the communities and try to weed some of this stuff out. You know, be harder on, especially maybe some of the platform holders. You know, improve the reporting process for the toxic people, like improve the culture around games, and that will, I think, improve the perception of them. But there needs to be action from both sides. Obviously, you know, these people need to open their minds a little bit and realize it's not as black and white as they think it is. But Wout's absolutely right. The games community, gamers, and the people leading the charge there need to step up as well and really say, like, hey, this isn't what we are about, and we're going to show you by fixing it.
So I want to throw it real quick. I want to throw it to Steve real quick and get his opinion on it, because Steve, again, like down where you're at, I mean, violent video games, I don't believe have the stigma that they do, or video games in general, I don't believe have the stigma that they do here. Not with politicians and not with parents. Now, I could be wrong, but I wanted to know, as somebody who doesn't live in the United States, how do you get that across to lawmakers? How do you show them, or how do you convince them? Look, games and the people who play them are not the problem.
Well, I mean, it ties into what we've been saying before. My number one fix for anything is empathy, which leads everything else. So just lead by example. Be the presence online you want to be, kind of thing. Interact with these lawmakers the way anyone would, in a respectful manner. Just simple education would answer all these questions, because when you kill someone in a video game, you're not like, "Oh, I fucking murdered that dude." You're engaging in a game and a competition and defeating them in just the same way you defeat someone in any sport. And I think everyone understands that. They're not there to end lives. They're there to beat people at a game, if it's a competitive, that sort of game. So a lot of where these lawmakers are coming from is just not even understanding that. They see the visual representation out of context and freak out about that. So
I have my own opinions on it, but I see Zach chomping at the bit. Zach wants to jump in here and mix it up. Zach, go ahead.
No. I really don't have much more to add. I just I'm just agreeing. I'm just in an agreeable mood. No, I mean, I think everyone else is making.
It's that liquor. It's that bullet.
Yeah, I think everyone's made really good points, but I don't really want to ramble. Finn, you've been quiet. You got anything, bud?
Yeah, I was just about to say, Finn, why don't you jump out on this, man?
I mean, I was trying to just let the rest of the cast have a go.
No, dude. This is SDGC. Subject. You fucking interrupt people like I just interrupted you.
Yeah, I know. It's a topic that needs a lot more nuance than I feel like I can actually give it. Ever since I was a kid, during the Mortal Kombat scenario and the start of all of this talk and during Columbine, I've never understood why it has to be a scapegoat, because before video games it was rock and roll, it was movie, before those it was books and music. We're just going to be the more convenient scapegoat, and it makes me sad, because I really thought we had progressed past that, at least in the political sphere. But when faced with actual opposition and engaged and invigorated youth, it makes me sad that they immediately default to this tired refrain. And it makes me sad, again, because enough time has passed that they'll be able to probably get some traction and support behind this notion, because it's been so long since it's even been an issue. And mean, I think the last time video games popped up in such a negative light was the hot coffee mod for Grand Theft Auto.
Oh God, I remember that. That was something else. I don't know. You don't think Sandy Hook was worse?
For blaming video games?
Yeah, because a lot of people started talking about how Adam Lanza was, heavily steeped in. But like, here's the other thing, right? Like, we don't know what this guy. His name escapes me, and honestly, even if I did it, I don't want to mention it on the show. But this guy who killed the 17 students in Parkland, we don't know what his habits were, right? Like, people jumped up and said Adam Lanza had to have been a gamer. We know he was a gamer. He must have been a gamer. It turns out he obsessively played Dance Dance Revolution. Did you guys know this? Adam Lanza was obsessed with Dance Dance Revolution, and he would play it in the arcade so much that they would have to unplug the machine to get him to go home. So I don't think Dance Dance Revolution drove him to murder. And then the Virginia Tech shooter, which is where my wife went to college. Everybody said everybody should remember Jack Thompson. I know everybody remembers Jack Thompson.
Yep.
He was all over the news, Fox News and CNN, saying we know he was a gamer. He played, and I love this. He said he played a lot of Counter-Strike Half-Life, and I'm like, whoa, buddy, you just fucking combined Half-Life and Counter-Strike into something that I don't even fucking comprehend. He would constantly say that Counter-Strike Half-Life. He played Counter-Strike Half-Life, and I'm like, that's amazing. But then it turns out that he wrote long-form poetry and he didn't play games at all. So, this is something else that people do, right? We something like this happens. Like there was, I think it was 2 years ago, there was a shooting at the U.S. Naval Yard up in D.C. near where I work, actually. And it was a contractor there, and he had shot the whole place, and and he was in his 40s, and people immediately started asking, what kind of games does he play? And it turns out he doesn't play anything.
I mean, you have to remember too, it's because of Columbine and all the reports of Columbine is how they were addicted to dooms, and I mean, like that's the template for a shooting. That's what people assume when there's a shooting now. It's not our fault. It's just that's what the media picks up on.
Well, what I think is sad is that they keep going back to this thing that has been continuously disproven, but gloss over completely the correlation that is constantly connected to these shooters, and that's just a history of domestic violence and abuse.
Yeah.
So,
when we block, remember we block the CDC from investigating and tracking some of that data, which is why we don't get more about it.
Right, but it's just another factor that they gloss over because video games are the scapegoat. It's an easy scapegoat to point and be like, look at this game with all the shooting and the guns. That's clearly, the case of everything.
So I want to point out something that Jesse said in chat, and it's really relevant, and then I'll make one more point. He said, all anyone would really have to do is show the death threats studios receive for delaying games and the threats journalists receive for reporting on those delays. Pretty easy to continue scapegoating games when you have that sad collection of tweets and forum posts to paint a picture with, and he's absolutely right.
Yeah,
100%.
and that's kind of what I meant with that we have to do better. And it's not just the gamer, it's like the media too, because we have a tendency, and I say we as like games media, to prop up the assholes, like to highlight the bad stories. And I made a comment to the Julia Alexander from Polygon the other day. She does great articles on YouTube communities and those things. And she had an article on Logan Paul, and I said, like, this is a great article, but it would be even better if you follow it up with like an example of greatness in games, and we just don't ever do that. Like, we had Dr. Disrespect as trending gamer this year, and that is the face we choose year over year to put on the hobby.
Now that
and that's where we have to start.
It couldn't be a strong woman in gaming or somebody who does more to help disabled gamers than anybody else alive. No, it had to be fucking
Disrespect.
Dr. Disrespect. That's the trending gamer. Yeah. Oh god, don't even get me fucking started on that.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm not surprised that we get scapegoated time after time.
Like even last night, I think some of us, probably most of us, saw this tweet from Boogie, who is huge and hugely influential.
Oh, God, I hate him.
And he just said it's forgivable for people to joke. For people to joke about this, and like, no, it's not fucking forgivable. No, don't joke about it.
It's not forgivable at all. And I just
Wasn't that Boogie?
Yes,
yeah,
Boogie.
That was Boogie.
Yep.
That was Boogie. Yeah, I'm in the middle. I'm on both sides of the fence. So, yeah. I guess I'll ask one more question, and then I've got a cool PAX announcement to make, and we'll wrap it up. With Donald Trump saying today that, hey, we need to really start looking at video games, what do you guys think the reaction is going to be from his supporters in the Gamergate crowd? Because I was thinking that earlier today.
I was on Facebook today, not related to the games, but like one of my cousins, he's like a Trump supporter. He reshared or shared a post or whatever on Facebook, and it's like on 16-year-olds to decide what to do about gun laws, but yet they were eating Tide Pods a couple weeks ago. I mean, I feel like his supporters, like whatever stance, people who play video games take on games, that they're like, yeah, we shouldn't do this. I feel like they're just going to mock them nonetheless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I don't see.
I mean, it's sad. It's not even like a like what will actually happen. Like you kind of just know what's going to happen at this point, and it's just like that's going to be like, no, we shouldn't do this because of this, and then we have the other side that says to me like because of blah blah blah, or they're just like, you know what, like we don't have the same views, we don't have the same thoughts, like you're just dumb.
I don't know. I think the problem. I think especially now with this current, and again, not to get too political, because it's. I'm not going to tell you should be a Democrat. I'm not going to tell you should be a Republican. But with this current administration and the way things are, like, no, I'm not worried that anybody's going to try to ban video games or try to censor video games. I'm not worried about that because that's extremely difficult. But I am more concerned for my hobby than I would be with other administrations, simply because this president has made statements heavily critical of the gaming industry in the past. And we can sit here and talk about it all night, but at the end of the day, this is a hobby we love, and we want to defend it. We're all gamers, and we're all good people. Every single one of us is a good person here. None of us would ever hurt anybody. And so, for me, whenever somebody lays the blame of a mass shooting or a horrible crime at the doorstep of the gaming community, which is really what they're doing, I feel as though it's an indictment on all of us. And that's just something I really can't countenance at all.
And that's why it's important that we are also ambassadors for the people like ourselves, like the good guys. Trending gamer, Jeff, pick one of them.
Well, hold on. Are you saying Jeff?
Any of these white boys will
hold
do.
on. Are you saying Jeff is going to be our training gamer of 2018?
No, I said Jeff Keighley. Pick any of these white boys.
Jeff. I thought you meant Jeff as in Jeff here on the podcast is going to be nominated for training gamer.
No, it's going to be a white boy again next year.
Of course it will.
Yeah.
I don't even get me. I was so upset that either Andrea or Steve didn't win.
Steven. Oh.
God, I was so upset. But anyway, I got a cool PAX announcement to make.
Can I just bring up one more thing really quick?
Yeah, no, dude, go ahead.
Related to video games, I guess, in the context I'm going to use it in. I think it was last week when the Fox News, host said, like, for LeBron to shut up and just dribble his ball to use it. And sports players shouldn't speak on their political views. They're criticizing, an entertainer, someone who plays a sport for a living, speaking his opinion, and feel the same way about people who play video games or develop video games, but to speak their opinion on this matter because it affects the country as a whole. So don't be scared to So
you're cutting out pretty bad there, man. What was that last part? I'm
just gonna say don't be scared to share your views. You play video games, you develop video games, you write about video games. Don't be scared to share your views.
Be proud of yourself.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yes, it is. That's one for another week. So before we end, pretty cool PAX announcement. So I can't say anything about panels yet, but what I can say is that I am going to be one of the hosts of Susan Arndt's game show night at PAX.
Cool.
I'm going to be hosting the Supermarket Sweep night along with Chris Kohler from Kotaku. So we're going to be working that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm super excited and nervous about it. So I've been watching a lot of Supermarket Sweeps reruns to try to get myself ready for that. I'm extremely nervous, but I hope they let me wear my Socky t-shirt, right? Like I hope Susan's like, yeah, you can wear your Socky t-shirt. I'm really I don't know if that's I don't know if that's gonna be a thing or not, but I'm gonna try. But anyway, yeah, that's one of the things I'm going to be doing at PAX East this year. So anybody who's going to PAX, please come and attend that. And if you're not attending PAX, we're gonna be somebody's gonna be there videotaping it. I believe. Finn, you're going. I know JT's gonna be there with me all 4 days. Finn, you're gonna be there too, right?
Yes. Every day but Sunday.
Okay, yeah, awesome.
What night is the game night?
Game night is it's not Sunday, so it'll be it's a continuous thing. It's several nights. I'm going to be hosting one of the nights, which is Supermarket Sweep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's going to be good. I'm a little overwhelmed by it, but it's going to be good. It's going to be good, and then I'll be on a panel that I still can't talk about the panel. But one of the panels got canceled, unfortunately, just wasn't approved. But I'll be on another panel that I still cannot talk about until I get clearance to talk about it. But anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Man, dude, we didn't even have time for a second topic, which is good. The violence stuff was good. We had a great time talking about what we're playing. I want to give a special thank you to our boys, Steve and Wout. And starting with Wout, where can people find you on the Twitter, on the Twitters, my man?
You might want to hide from me on the Twitter instead of looking for me specifically. At the hashtagonist, and the O is a 0. I'll be there all week usually, and that's the main thing, I think. I'm starting a YouTube channel and stuff, but there's like only a trailer on there, so don't look for that one yet.
I can't wait. So, like, do you have a name for the channel yet?
The Hashcast.
The Hashcast? The
Yes.
Hashcast. I love it. I'm looking forward to that Hashcast X SDGC because you know it's.
I will definitely have you guys on at some point.
With a name like Hashcast, I'm sure you're going to get some interesting people coming in.
Oh,
Well, I am Dutch, so it's a double whammy.
You are in Canada.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Leaning into it.
And Steve Blomkamp, my friend, where can people find you on Twitter, man?
On Twitter, I'm at @Blomkamp. I talk game dev stuff, or just pictures of my cat. So if that sounds appealing, then follow me on there. Also, watch this space. I'll be launching a sort of game dev commentary YouTube thing called GamesCast.
Oh, I like that.
I'm still figuring that out, but I've got all the social media and stuff tied down for that. I just haven't done anything with it yet because I've been too busy.
I also just want to point out that when you put your cat in your lap, there were so many Wout jokes I wanted to make, but I didn't because I'm a classy guy, and that would have been rather cliched and expected of me. So I refrained. I did not do that. And then of course to the rest of my boys here, I always love sitting down on a Thursday night and talking games with you guys. This is I think this is the only the third show that Brandon has missed in over 2 years now. This is only the third show Brandon's missed. So it's weird not having him here, actually. One of these days, I am going to not be here, and Jeff is going to host. Maybe it's next week. That's the other thing. Jeff, in case anybody didn't know, Jeff is the official backup host of SDGC, and I may just take next week off and hand the reins over to Jeff.
Dear God.
Who knows? No, actually, Jeff already hosted once. So, dude, Jeff did a fantastic job hosting. And he wore a tie and a suit and a jacket and everything. Like, I'm not bullshitting you. He did.
That's awesome.
I don't know if he was wearing slacks or pants, but he definitely had a suit and tie on, which was incredible. It was awesome. So I don't know. Maybe I'll take the week off next week and I'll let Jeff do his thing. But anyway, does anybody have anything else for the group or for chat before we get off?
Not for me.
Anybody?
Socky bless.
No. Socky.
Socky bless.
Jesus Christ. Steve, thank you for wearing your Socky shirt. I deeply appreciate that. You're a good man for putting up with us. And okay. As always, guys, Matt Piscatella will be on here again very soon. He's been super busy, but he'll be on to talk about the incredible NPD we just had for January. And as always, my friends, it's not always poetry, and we don't always agree, but we always keep it real. So until next week, take care of each other, and we will see you guys later.